So as we go into working at the employee class, we can see the vast majority of being an employee is being a customer or being a person as far as the code goes. That's mostly what we're going to ask for. So when we look at our strategy here, we start at the same place. I'm going to go through and create a method to be able to go get the customer info. And so let me add in here real quick. Just copy and paste this. There's going to be 3, and then employee info. So I'm going to go get employee info from the user. It doesn't exist yet. I'm going to go put that out there in a second. When I come over here to do that, I can immediately see I'm going to need all these variables. I'm going to need all this information. All that's going to be added to that is going to be getting the customer ID. So the quick way, I'm using finger quotes here, would be to copy all this, add the other one in, change customer to employee, boom, I could be done probably in 2 or 3 minutes. It's not necessarily the right way. It could be the right way. If I know I don't really care the fact that they happen to be in common, then copying and pasting is no big deal. I can tell you immediately that if you copy and paste it, you're going to have twice as much work to do when we start doing validation. Because right now, I have no validation that if I don't type in a first name, a last name, a username, an IP address, there's no harm, no foul. It just doesn't get put in. And if some of this stuff is immediately needs to be validated, I will have to go up and fix that on each and every one of these guys. So that means I can come up with a strategy by which I can reuse this, but I have to be clever. I have to come up with a way of how do I do this, because fundamentally I'm getting a bunch of fields, setting them to an object, and I need to set 2 different types of objects. So how do I deal with that? So let's start with the simple stuff. Let's keep my code compiling. I hate code that doesn't compile. So public, I'm going to have a employee, get employee, info from user scanner in. So there's my method. I'm just to return null there. Make sure everything's compiling nice. So yeah, my whole application's compiling nice right now. So at this point, if I say run and just to test it out, I hit employee, it prints out null, which is fine because I just set it up to be null. So what do we want the employee to do? Well, I want the employee to go get everything from the customer and then add in one more field. So ideally, all I need to do here is say string. Is it string? I'll just use a string for now. Employee ID. So that's the one we need. And so I know I can really kind of put that inside of here and say, what is your employee ID? Sorry, employee ID. There you go. So I know I'm going to have this little bit of code plus everything that happened up front. Now, there's a number of strategies by which I could go off and do this. One real quick and dirty strategy, again, for those of you who don't want to do a bunch of code, who don't want to do a bunch of thinking, again, this is engineering to some degree. It doesn't matter about elegance necessarily if I don't have a bunch of time to be elegant. So one strategy I could do is I could say customer C is equal to get customer from user. So I can go prompt for all the customer stuff and then ask the employee ID and then copy it over. Employee E is equal to new employee. So the employee ID, IP address. So C dot get IP address. E dot set first name is equal to C dot get first name, and so on. I'm not going to do it all because I don't like this approach. But I want to show you that it could be done. And then E dot set employee ID is employee ID. Is that going to work? I think what's an integer there? Does it want an integer there? Yes. I'm sorry. So this one an integer there. So let me make this an int, and we'll say make this to be next int there, just to simplify that. And then return here an E. So this is a strategy. it's not a bad strategy. It could be a very clever strategy. If that does absolutely everything I want it to do, this could be a perfectly reasonable strategy to make that happen. So what I want is I want an employee. When do I want it? I want it now. So first name, Tony Lowe, T Lowe, IP address, how many times I visit the site? 54 was my employee ID. There it goes. And boom, look. I mean, it's outside of the fact that it's null because I didn't copy it over. It seemed to, visits is 0. Didn't seem to have, I didn't copy that over, yeah. So, the employee ID was set, and then the customer information was mostly set because of the stuff I copied over. One thing I want you to notice here as I went through it, and I skipped by it here, it says welcome existing customer right here. So I can't use the behavior because it's exactly the same behavior. I don't want it to be exactly the same behavior. So how do I get mostly the same behavior but not all of the same behavior out of this guy? Best option there is have a third party that does the common stuff but not everything. If you remember in the lecture from last week, we talked about composition. This is where composition comes to play in conjunction with inheritance. We have an inheritance hierarchy, and we want common behavior and common access to that behavior. But in populating the inheritance hierarchy, we have pieces that are the same, but pieces that are different as well. So what if I had a method down here at the bottom? And this is a great reason why we have a common class. It said private get get common customer stuff. Scanner in. Oops, I'm sorry. So what if I did something like this? Where instead of employee calling get customer info from user, I could just say get common customer stuff. And then start this with system.out.println. Welcome, we love our employees. Right here. So that's another approach we could do with that, right? So inside of here, we could start with our prompt, welcome existing customer, and then separate that prompt from please enter your first name. Now there's ways I could do both of them at the same time. So doing a print line I could do there. But so let's just say I'm okay with changing it. I could say please enter your first name. I could say welcome existing customer up here. And then all of this stuff down below is all about getting the common customer, right? So what if I took all this stuff that's in common, I copy it, I remove it from this class, and I put it down here in the common customer class. So this does all the work I want inside of it. So I get the IP address, first name, all the stuff that's common inside of here, first name, last name, all that stuff that's common. And then here I just simply say return get common customer stuff. So if all I want is the common customer stuff, I prompt them and I go get the common customer stuff. If I'm going to go make an employee, I prompt you, get all the common customer stuff, then I go get my employee new stuff. Let's test this out. Let's see how it works. So for an existing, do the existing guy, Tony Lowe, T Lowe, IP address, how many times have I visited the site? Oh, that worked pretty well. I can run it again. All right, so I do employee, Tony Lowe. See, welcome. We love our employees. Lowe, T Lowe, IP address. How many times I visit site? Employee ID. Perfect. And it prints out the employee right there. The problem is I still have to copy over everything. It's kind of a pain, isn't it? I still have to copy over everything. And I don't necessarily have to. I can change my pattern a little bit. Because remember, the interface up here is they're going to hand me the scanner object, I'm going to return to you a customer object. This is inside. I don't have to follow that pattern. What if I change this up, where instead of returning a customer, I return nothing? but I ask you instead to send me customer to fill up here. So down here, instead of creating a new customer, I can go get customer to fill and do that down here. Now it has a little bit of an issue. So let me just change this C to customer to fill. And I can change all of these C's, all these C's, all these C's. I have to stu.set IP address to the IP address there. So the idea behind here is now I have a common method, a private method, hidden method, only used for me, where if you hand me a customer to fill, I'll go ask for the questions, I'll go fill it up. Right? And then up here, instead of getting common customer to fill, I just need to create a customer to fill. And an employee is a type of customer. Remember, inheritance, employee is type of customer. I can create the new employee here, and I can leave the IP address null. I can get rid of this guy here and pass it in here. So up here, I leave the IP address null because I know it's going to get filled when I get to common customer. I don't care the fact it's null here. I'm going to set it when I go to get the common customer stuff. And then I don't need to see, I don't need to do any of this copy stuff. I can just set the new one as I get it. All right, and so now this guy I have to fix as well. I can't do this. I have to create a customer here. Actually create a customer here, and I can leave that null again because I know it's going to get filled when I do this. Is that right? Oh, I'm sorry. No, wait. What? I'm sorry. What's my error here? Incompatible types. Void cannot be converted to. Oh, yeah. I don't need a return here. I need a return here. There you go. Fill the customer stuff, then return there. That was my mistake. Yeah. So the error message it was telling me there is I can't return void because this returns void. And so what I want to do is return C, which is what comes out of there. All right, so that's my change. Now let me just make sure it works, test it real quick. So existing customer is 2. Sorry, let me take that out. First name, last name, username, IP address, visits. Boom, there's my customer. So it all works happy. Run it one more time. Employee, first name, last name, username, IP address, number of visits, and employee ID. And it fills that just fine. So this could also apply to the same thing for getting this initial user. Your application only has one level, most likely. You probably only need to do this one time. You don't have to do this. You can copy and paste. I'm okay with that. I just want you to be exposed to a better design heuristic. This is bottom-up design. The first way, we looked at the design up top, and we said, hey, I know I need these breakdowns. So I'm going to do guest stuff, customer stuff, employee stuff separately. Now I get into the code and I say, you know what, there's a lot of common code inside of here. Let me go through and break out a common method to store all this stuff. And in a minute, when we get into validation, we're going to love that we did this. And maybe you don't do it right away. When you get into validation, maybe that's when you go off and change it. Or you don't. You do a lot of copying and pasting, whatever you're comfortable with. But let me tell you, this type of approach is what you commonly see in industry. This is what you would do if you're going to be a professional coder someday. So this is a great chance to give it a try.